and it's chapter 18. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Totally fine, I lied. You don't look fine, Eric said. Mind if I sit down? No, go ahead, I said listlessly. I knew my nose was bright red. I'd definitely been snotting on myself, because when he walked up, I had a sneaking suspicion he'd witnessed at least part of the nightwear between Heath and me. The night was just getting. Am I recording? It is. The night was just getting worse and worse. I glanced at him and decided, what the hell, might as well continue the trend. In case you didn't realize it, it was me who saw that little scene between you and Aphrodite in the hall yesterday. He didn't even hesitate. I know, and I wish you hadn't. I didn't want you to get the wrong idea about me. And what idea would that be? That there's more going on between Aphrodite and me than there really is. Not my business, I said. He shrugged. I just want you to know that she and I are not going out anymore. I almost said that it sure looked like Aphrodite wasn't aware of that, but then I thought about what had just happened between Heath and me, and with a sense of surprise, I realized that maybe I shouldn't judge Eric too harshly. Okay, you guys aren't going out, I said. He sat quietly beside me for a little while, and when he spoke again, I thought he sounded almost angry. Aphrodite didn't tell you about the blood in the wine? He hadn't asked it like a question, but I answered anyway. Nope. He shook his head, and I saw his jaw tighten. She told me she was going to. She said she'd let you know while you were changing your clothes, so if you weren't okay with it, you could skip drinking from the goblet. She lied. Not a big surprise, he said. You think? I could feel my own anger building inside me. This whole thing has been just wrong. I get pressured into going into the Dark Daughters ritual. I'm tricked into drinking blood, and then I meet it with my almost ex-boyfriend, who just happens to be 100% human, and no damn body bothered to explain to me that the tiniest speck of his blood would turn me into a monster. I bit my lip and held on to my anger so I wouldn't start crying again. I also decided that I wouldn't say anything about thinking that I saw Elizabeth's ghost. That was too much weird to admit for one night. No one explained it to you because it's something that shouldn't really have started to affect you until you were in sixth form, he said quietly. Huh? I was back to being dazzlingly articulate. Bloodlust doesn't usually begin until you're a sixth former and you're completely changed. Once in a while you'll hear about a fifth former who has to deal with it early, but it doesn't happen very often. Wait, what are you saying? My mind felt like bees were buzzing around in it. You start having classes about bloodlust and other things mature vampires have to deal with during your fifth form, and then, in your final year, it's mostly what the school focuses on and whatever you've decided to major in. But I'm a third former. Barely, I mean. I've only been marked a few days. Your mark is different. You're different, he said. I don't want to be different. I realized I was shouting and got my voice under control. I just want to figure out how to get through this like everyone else. Too late, Z, he said. So what now? I think you'd better talk to your mentor. It's Neferit, isn't it? Yeah, I said miserably. Hey, cheer up. Neferit's great. She hardly ever takes on fledglings to mentor anymore, so she really must believe in you. I know. It just makes me feel. How did I feel about talking to Neferit about what had happened tonight? Embarrassed? Like I was 12 years old again and had to tell our male gym teacher that I'd started my period. I had to go to the locker room and change my shorts. I peeked sideways at Eric. There he sat, gorgeous and attentive and perfect. Hell, I couldn't tell him that. So I instead blurted, stupid. It makes me feel stupid. Which wasn't actually a lie, but mostly what it made me feel, besides embarrassed and stupid. and scared. I didn't want this thing that made it impossible for me to fit in. Don't feel stupid. You're actually way ahead of the rest of us. So, I hesitated, then took a deep breath and barreled on. Did you like the way the blood in the goblet tasted tonight? Well, here's the deal with that. My first full blood moon ritual with the Dark Daughters was at the end of my third former year, except for the quote refrigerator that night. I was the only third former there, just like you tonight. He gave a small, humourless laugh. They only invited me because I'd finalled in the Shakespeare soliloquy contest and was being flown to London for a competition the next day. He glanced at me and looked a little embarrassed. No one from the House of Night had ever made it to London. It was a big deal. He shook his head self-mockingly. Actually, I thought I was a big deal, so the Dark Daughters invited me to join them, and I did. I knew about the blood. I was given the opportunity to turn it down. I didn't. But did you like it? This time his laugh was real. I gagged and puked my guts up. It was the most disgusting thing I'd ever tasted. I groaned. My head dropped forwards, and I put my face in my hands. You're not helping me. Because you thought it was good? Better than good, I said. My face was still in my hands. You say it was the most disgusting thing you ever tasted. I thought it was the most delicious. Well, the most delicious until I stopped, realizing what I had been about to say. Until you tasted fresh blood? He asked gently. I nodded my head, again, afraid to speak. He tugged at my hands, making me unbury my face. He put his finger under my chin and forced me to look straight at him. Don't be embarrassed or ashamed. It's normal. Loving the taste of blood is not normal. Not for me. Yes, it is. All vampires have to deal with their lust for blood, he said. But I'm not a vampire. Maybe you're not yet, but you're also definitely not the average fledgling. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're special, Zoe, and special can be amazing. Slowly, he took his finger from my chin, and he had earlier that night, and traced the shape of a pentagram softly over my darkened mark. I liked the way his finger felt against my skin, warm and a little rough. I also liked being near him. It didn't set off weird reactions I'd had to being close up to with Heath. I mean, I couldn't hear Eric's blood beating or see his pulse through his neck jumping. Not that I'd minded if he'd kissed me. Hell, was I becoming a vampire slut? What was next? Would no male of any species, which might even include Damien, be safe around me? Maybe I should avoid all guys until I figured out what was going on with me, and I knew I could control myself. And then I remembered what I'd been trying to do, to avoid everyone, which was why I was here in the first place. What are you doing out here, Eric? I followed you, he said simply. Why? I figured I knew what Aphrodite had pulled in there, and I thought you might need a friend. You're rooming with Stevie Ray, right? I nodded. Yeah, I thought about finding her and sending her out here to get you, but I didn't know if you'd want her to know about. He paused and made a vague gesture back in the direction of the rec hall. No, I don't want her to know. I stumbled over the words I'd tried to find so fast. That's what I'd thought. So that's why you're here, stuck with me. He smiled and then looked kinda uncomfortable. I really didn't mean to listen in between you and Heath. Sorry about that. I focused on petting Nella. So he'd watched Heath kiss me, and then he'd saw the whole blood thing. God, how embarrassing. And then a thought struck me, and I glanced up at him, smiling ironically. I guess this makes us even. I didn't mean to listen in between you and Aphrodite either. He smiled back at me. We're even. I like that. His smile made my stomach do funny things. I wouldn't really have flown down and sucked Kyla's blood, I managed to say. He laughed. He had a really nice laugh. I know that. Vampires can't fly. It freaked her out, though, I said. From what I saw, she deserved it. He waited a beat and then said, "Can I ask you something? It's kind of personal." Hey, you seen me drink blood from a cup and like it, puke, kiss a guy, and lick the blood like I'm a puppy, and then bawl my eyes out. And I've seen you turn down a blowjob. I think I can manage to answer a kind of personal question. Was he really in a trance? He looked like it, and he sounded like it. I squirmed uncomfortably, and Nala complained at me till I petted her quiet. It seemed like he was, I finally managed to say. I don't know if it was the trance or not. I totally didn't mean to put him under my power or anything freaky like that. But he did change. I don't know. He'd been smoking and drinking. He might have been high. I heard Heath's voice again, rising from my memory in a cloying mist. Yes, whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want. And I saw that intense look he'd given me. Hell, I hadn't even known Heath, the jock, was capable of that kind of intensity, at least off the football field. I knew for sure he couldn't spell the word intensity, not football. He had been like that the whole time, or had he been like that the whole time, or just after you um, started to, not the whole time. Why? Well, that rules out two things that could have been making him act weird. One, if he was just high, then he would have been acting like that the whole time. And two, he might have been acting like that because you're really pretty, and that alone could make a guy feel like he's in a trance around you. His words made something flutter low in my stomach again, something that no guy had ever made me feel before. Not Heath the jock, or Jordan the sloth, or Jonathan the stupid band kid. My dating history isn't long, but it's colourful. Really? I said, like a moron. Really? He smiled, very unmoronically. Could this guy like me? I'm a blood-drinking dork. But that wasn't it either, because he should he should have noticed how hot you look even before you kissed him. And what you're saying is that he didn't seem entranced until after the blood came into the picture. Entranced, he actually said entranced. I was too busy grinning stupidly at the use of the complex vocab to think before I answered him. Actually, it happened when I started to hear his blood. Say again? Ah, crap, I hadn't meant to say that. I cleared my throat. He started to change when I heard his blood pounding through his veins. Only adult vamps can hear that. He paused and then, with a quick smile, added, "And he sounds like a name of a gay soap opera star." Close. He's the BA's star quarterback. Eric nodded and looked amused. Uh, by the way, I like what you changed your name to. Knight is a cool last name, I said, trying to hold up my end of the conversation and say something even slightly insightful. His smile widened. "I didn't change it. Eric Knight is the name I was born with." "Oh, well, I like it. Why didn't someone just shoot me?" "Thanks." He glanced at his watch, and I could see it was almost 6:30 in the a.m., which still seemed freaky. "It'll be getting light soon," he said. Guessing this was our cue for us to go our separate ways, I started to gather my feet under me and get a better hold on Nala so I could stand up. I felt Eric Knight's hand under my elbow, steadying me. He helped me up and then stood there, so close to Nala's tail that it was brushing against his black sweater. I'd asked if he wanted to get something to eat, but the only place serving food right now is the rec hall, and I don't think he'd want to go back there. No, definitely not, but I'm not hungry anyway, which I realized as soon as I said it was a big lie. At the mention of food, I was suddenly starving. "Well, do you mind if I walk you back to your dorm?" he asked. "Nope," I said, trying to sound nonchalant. Stevie Ray, Damien, and the twins would totally die if they saw me with Eric. We didn't say anything as we started walking, but it wasn't an awkward, uncomfortable silence. Actually, it was nice. Once in a while, our arms would brush against each other, and I thought about how tall and cute he was, and how much I'd like him to hold my hand. Oh, he said after a while, I didn't finish answering your question before. The first time I tasted blood at one of the Dark Daughters rituals, I hated it, but it got better and better each time. I can't say I think it was delicious, but it's grown on me, and I definitely like the way it makes me feel. I looked sharply at him, dizzy and kind of weak-kneed, like you're drunk, only you're not. Yeah. Hey, did you know it's impossible for a vampire to get drunk? I shook my head. It's something about what the change does to our metabolism. It's even tough for fledglings to get wasted. So, drinking blood is the only way vamps get wasted? He shrugged. I suppose. Anyway, drinking human blood is forbidden for fledglings. Well, then why hasn't anyone clued in the teachers on what Aphrodite's up to? She's not drinking human blood. Uh, Eric, I was there. The blood was definitely in the wine. It came from that Elliot kid, I shuddered. And that was a gross choice, too. But he's not human, Eric said. Wait, it's forbidden to drink human blood? I said slowly. Oh, hell, that's what I'd just done. But it's okay to drink another fledgling's blood, only if it's consensual, which makes no sense. Sure, it does. It's normal for our bloodlust to develop as our bodies change, so we need an outlet. Fledglings heal quickly, so there's no real chance of someone getting hurt, and there aren't any after effects, like when a vamp feeds off a living human. What he was saying was banging through my head like the annoying too loud music that blared in Wet Seal, and I grasped the first thing I could think clearly about. Living human? I squeaked. Tell me you don't mean versus feeding off a corpse? And I was feeling a little nauseous again. He laughed. No, I mean versus drinking blood harvested from the vamps, blood donors. Never heard of such a thing? Most humans haven't. You won't learn about it until you're a fifth former. Then some more of what he said broke through the confusion of my mind. What did you mean by after effects? We just started learning about it in Vamp Sociology 312. Seems like when an adult vampire feeds from a living human, there can be a very strong bond formed. It's not always on the part of the vamp, but humans become infatuated pretty easily. It's dangerous for the human. I mean, think about it. Blood loss alone isn't a good thing. Then add to the fact that we outlive humans by decades, sometimes even centuries. Look at it from the human's point of view. It would really suck to be totally in love with someone who never seems to age while you get old and wrinkled and die. And I thought about the dazed but intense way Heath had looked at me, and I knew that no matter what, or how hard it might be, I'd have to tell Neferit everything. Yeah, that would suck, I said faintly. Here we are. I was surprised to see Wood stopped in front of the girls' dorm. I looked up at him. Well, thanks for following me, I think, I said with a wry smile. Hey, anytime you want someone to butt in when you're not invited, or when he's not invited, I'm the guy for you. I'll keep that in mind, I said. Thanks. I hefted Nala up on my hip and started to open the door. Hey, Z, he called, and I turned back. Don't give back the dress to Aphrodite. By her including you in the circle tonight, she's formally offered you a position in the Dark Daughters, and it's tradition that the High Priestess in training gives a gift to the new member on her first night. I don't imagine you'll want to join, but you still have the right to keep the dress, especially because you look so much better in it than she ever did. He reached forward and took my hand, the one that wasn't clutching my cat, and turned it over so my wrist was facing up. Then he took his finger and traced a vein that was close to the surface there, making my pulse jump crazily. And you should also know that I'm the guy for you if you decide that you might like to try another sip of blood. keep that in mind too. Eric bent and, still looking in my eyes, he lightly bit the pulse point of my wrist before kissing the soft spot. This time, the fluttering feeling in my stomach was more intense. It made the inside of my thighs tingle and my breathing deepen. His lips still on my wrist, he met my eyes, and I felt a shiver of desire pass through my body. I knew he could feel me tremble. He let his tongue flick up against my wrist, which made me shiver again, and then he smiled at me and walked away to the pre-dawn light. And that's the end of chapter 18. We're going to leave it there for the book 2 if you're interested on her developing relationship with Eric Knight. Buy the book. I bought it ages ago, and I've enjoyed reading it. I bought a few in the series. I fell out of the way of reading it about I think it was the fifth-ish book into it, but I'd like to read them again. They weren't bad. They're they're not terribly written, and there's love and drama throughout. So if you're into that kind of thing, that one's for you. And thanks for listening.